Welcome back to Fermat Friday. We've had a few guests on the show from our account management team. Today, I'm excited because I got the big boss man join in. We've got Steve, who's the VP of account management, join in. And Steve, I wanted to talk to you about a few things today, but I think like the biggest thing I want to talk about is just how people should be thinking about Fermat when it comes to like interfacing with our team and the service that they're going like that they can expect when they're interfacing with Fermat. So maybe I kind of want to actually start there and just kind of like, what's your take on that? Like, is Fermat more than just a product?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love Fermat Fridays. Um, you know, I think historically, when you think about buying software, um, we went through this like age of PLG, get it done yourself. We went through an age of buy software, do custom integrations, and really, I think we're at the stage now where a lot of our customers, when they buy Fermat, they're buying outcomes. They're buying reasons of improving their business, whether that's improving, subscription rates, whether it's improving like a specific metric, whether it's expanding their market, expanding a new tab. And the way to think about the Fermat product is it's actually a software plus the service component attached to it. And the way we think about it internally is there are three kind of stages that you go through when you start working with us. The first stage is establishing a baseline for what is to be true. And during this phase, we deliver something really exciting called an experimentation framework. And what this is it's a roadmap of what can you expect over the next 30, 60, and 90 days that are tailored to your vertical, your AOV, your price point, your firmographic, demographic data in terms of things that you want to test. So it could be that we test a 5 reasons why page. It could be that we test an advertorial. It could be that we test a series of different things, but that is hyper focused for you. The next stage is getting to some level of statistical significance, and that's when we start to get to the learning stage. That takes us roughly about 30 to 45 days, and that's where we start to expand the types of shops that we can actually build. And lastly, that's when it's our forward-looking stage where we start thinking about quarterly improvements. So many of our clients in their business run on quarterly level goals, and we try our very best to snap into those goals as much as we can. That kind of full experience is how we snap into our teams. And what that's kind of given us access to is it's given us access to a much deeper relationship with our customers beyond just being a typical software vendor. So as an example of this, we have many of our customers where we're invited to their offsites, we're invited to their exec meetings where we can talk about not just what we're doing for Fermat with the software, but what we're also seeing from a competitive intelligence standpoint across the market, across all of our other brands. And what could that mean for some of our customers? What are some of course anonymized learnings that we could kind of share across the boards? And they really do see us as kind of experts in that space. I'll pause there, but hopefully that was helpful.
No, I love that, especially when you're talking about PLG versus like these custom integrations and people buying outcomes. I think that's like a really, really eloquent way of putting it. And especially like, I don't know, you and I have been in kind of like the Shopify SaaS world for a very long time. And I think you've like seen the pendulum swing very drastically in two directions. Like, oh, make it PLG, make it super easy. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just want it to be easy. Then we swung the other way and it's like, oh, in order to stand out, I just need like custom integrations, custom this, custom that. But like, it's not actually about either of those ways of approaching this. It's like, there's a job to be done. And like, I need to hire software to get that job done. Or in your case, what you said there, an outcome. Like I'm in pursuit of something and our team is there to help you out. And I like that you kind of outlined, okay, when you start working with Fermat, you can expect this, and then it kind of transitions into this. And then, hey, I mean, the fact that we get invited to our customers' offsites is just rad. That
Yeah.
we like are respected enough to be a part of the strategizing itself. So maybe let's like take those different plots on the timeline and like speak to them. So like someone's getting started with Fermat, you have the experimentation framework that you were talking about there, and we start to tailor it. Like, talk to me a bit about that. Maybe is there like an example of a brand we've been doing this with recently? Don't need to name the brand per se, but like what do we kind of like what comes out of that experimentation framework for the brand, and like what's the outcome we're giving to them in that phase?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, we work with a ton of different beauty brands, supplements brands, and a whole slew of different areas. But I can give you an example of one where oftentimes when brands think about testing, when the brands think about outcome, immediately their headspace goes to, well, I might have this landing page, it's at 3% conversion, how do I beat conversion right off the bat? Yes, that's the outcome that we're trying to get to, but that's not where we get to on step one. um, Conversion rate optimization and the whole notion of Fermat is one that's beyond, where it requires us to test a variety of different steps in order to get there. And it's almost like we're selling a culture and importing a culture of experimentation within that company. So what we do is we'll say something like, we're working with a food and bev slash supplements-ish brand where they said they wanted to find a winner that was outside of their hero product in terms of opening up their TAM. So a lot of their revenue was concentrated in this like one hero product, and the remaining three products that they had represented a little less than 10% of their overall revenue. And the issue is on the homepage, you can't really make some of these changes and alienate what's already doing so well for you. So, one of our goals was to find the right messaging in the first 30, 60, 90 days that could really help us unlock this brand new TAM. So we did things around, influencer and whitelisted shops. We did things around POV pages. We did things around shoppable video. We did things around offer-based testing. We did things around bundle testing. Like, we come up with a list of all of these different ideas where, the right answer exists out there. Our job is just to keep running iterations until we find the right messaging that's going to resonate. And then the second one was, they really wanted to drive subscriptions to their site. I think the standard tactic in our industry is offer 20% off, 30% off for subscribe and save and call it a day. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to try different forms of subscription. Could we try things around different messaging that helps people subscribe on different ways? So in the performance side of things, we were trying things around like, could they appeal to run clubs a bit better and run the subscription that way? Could they appeal to some of the podcasts that they've been on that are really driving the brand recognition and thought leadership in the space? And could we subscribe folks off of that way? So we come up with that level of framework. And then what that allows us to do is, instead of us just looking at tests that we're running in isolation, saying, does the software work or does the software not? What we have established is really a framework of operating where there's an infinite level of different tests that we can run. We just got to keep trying until we find the right answer. And I think that's where the fun part really is. The fun part is really there because once you establish the bones of what that looks like, that's where you get to jam with the client team. That's where like anyone with the client team can really come up with different ideas. And if you can come up with it, the speed of the software allows us to iterate and spin up those pages so fast that's where that service plus software combo really starts to gel.
Yeah. One thing you said in there that I absolutely love is like, it's our job to establish a culture of experimentation, because like that is how we operate here at Fermat, not only in terms of like how we operate with our customers, but how we operate ourselves as well. It's like what's true today might not be true tomorrow. And especially in our industry, it's just rapidly changing. So like we're going to need to establish that culture. And I love like this in the beginning, building all these experiments, because like we can take all the knowledge that we have and we can hypothesize about what could work for the outcome that you are seeking. But at the end of the day, at the beginning, you're right, we need to establish that baseline. We kind of need to try a bunch of different things, establish this framework to test these things in, kind of like triangulate ourselves a bit, aim at like a few particular things. And then from there, we start like progressing towards, hey, this could be the next big thing. Let's like take this very wide set of things we care about at the very start, and we'll start to narrow it in and narrow it in and narrow it in over time. And again, you get to work with your account manager, with the client team, to start to bring those guardrails in and like figure this out. Because like, I think another thing that's important is we're not just helping you get started. Like we're here for you along the way as this starts to narrow in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it A lot of this also comes down to the makeup of the team that you also work with, right? Look, we've all bought software before. We've all bought software. We've all sat through renewal conversations. We've all gone through the weekly touch base that might seem very mundane. The reality is, an account manager at Fermat is actually it starts with the talent that we're hiring on the team. An account manager at Fermat um, isn't gold or isn't motivated by the mission of trying to upsell you into something that you don't see value into. In fact, the talent that we hire onto the team is actually talent that first wants to be really good marketers and then want to be really good client facing, customer success, account management folks. And what that does is it's a net benefit for the customer. As much as they're staying up at night thinking about new ways to grow their business, new like strategies, new innovations that they've seen in technology and things of that nature, hey, guess what? So are we, because these people are motivated by being really good marketers. In fact, I can almost guarantee you there are no upsell levers where we will sit down and try and have a conversation with you where we're like, hey, you should buy this other thing and you should buy this other thing. Rather, we are incentivized off of our brand's growth, and I think that's what that trifecta of alignment between client, alignment between the growth manager, and then also having the right commercial agreements where we have alignment on how we grow brands. I think that trifecta is really working for us.
Yeah, mundane. I think there are, I mean, you've probably been on these same as I have, where it's like, oh, it's our monthly check-in, it's our quarterly check-in, and you sit there and you just kind of like, and then like, okay, see you later. The fact that we get invited to offsites and like planning and strategy meetings to like help with this should be like a strong endorsement of like how much value the team can provide. And like, honestly, I even get excited to talk to the team. Like Grace, Gordon, Sarah is like everyone on the team. If I get the opportunity to talk to them, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm learning a ton about how to talk about the product. And like, hey, I wasn't even thinking about this angle. And like, you just have so many brains that are all kind of like working towards the same goals. And like, we put the tools in place to have like that knowledge share happen as well. So like everyone's kind of like on the same page and like able to help and make those suggestions kind of like across the entire team.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What would you so how do you so team's very strong, not mundane. We're not incentivized to like push you into something that you don't want. As someone who's kind of like responsible for the makeup of that team, like how do you ensure that that kind of like stays the case as we grow and kind of expand the team? So if we're a product and a service, like this part of Fermat isn't going anywhere, like it's going to grow with us. So like how do you personally think about like keeping the quality of that team at the same level it is right now, or actually making it better over time?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I think one quick just like correction on that, which I think will set the context for this, is I don't think about it as the product and the service. I think about the product being the product and the service. That's how I think about it, period.
Love it.
Meaning, like our customers, if they see success with us, they will see success with us because of the speed, the extensibility of the platform, but they will also see success with us because the growth manager that they work with has gone above and beyond to really drive outcomes for their business and really be kind of a light post, a guiding light in terms of emerging trends, new partnerships, and areas that they want to drive. And how we do that, I think, are there's a bunch of different ways, but I think there's three different things that we kind of roughly have to get right. The first one is the talent profile of people that we hire. We're pretty fortunate where the kind of profile of talent that we're hiring to be growth managers aren't necessarily, like I mentioned before, your standard account managers who that is the only area that they spike really high on. For example, that is good, but that is table stakes for us. We've been super fortunate in our hiring pipeline to look at a lot of different folks that have been former founders of brands. Some of these people have been former heads of growth, heads of marketing, VPs of marketing. In fact, we have people that are our customers. The VPs of marketing from our customers have loved the service so much that they actually reach out to us and ask us if they can join our team. We also have the liberty of hiring folks that are extremely highly quantitative and quantitative, folks that come from non-traditional backgrounds like consulting and area. But the thing that underpins all of these folks is that, one, they're intellectually curious. They aren't repeating a playbook over and over again. Number two is they spike really high when it comes to finding out new emerging trends in marketing and new emerging ways of leveraging growth in marketing. And number three is they are customer obsessed. Like, our question is really around like, come to us, tell us what you think is really interesting. For example, and like, let me share some more examples. A lot of people right now in the space are thinking a lot about how generative AI might affect their content and creative production. Let's have that conversation. Let's test some of these assets in a Fermat shop with you. Let's use things like Pika. Let's use things like Runway. Let's use things like Sora and experiment on Fermat off your site to see if there's a signal that you're getting. Many people are thinking about what SEO looks like in a world that's dominated by new chat GPTs and perplexities, and perplexity pages came out. We don't have the answer, but let's figure that out together. I think having that intellectual horsepower and customer obsession is really one that's going to set ourselves up for success. And then number two is, as much as we want to import a culture of experimentation with a lot of our customers, that starts with us having a culture of experimentation internally. And I think we have a series of different rituals weekly where we try and give people as much time as possible to work on client work and dedicate all their time towards like servicing clients and being obsessed there. But the time that they spend as a team have really strong rituals around sharing knowledge. So, Ryan on our team is extremely knowledgeable at Facebook media buying and ad buying and the emerging techniques there. We have a ritual every Friday that's a coffee and jam knowledge sharing session where everyone is learning from each other. Sometimes we will invite external parties to those sessions as well. We also have a weekly performance readout on Wednesdays where a team of engineers, a team of like growth managers, a team of our brand success engineers all get together, and we really all bring like the best 10 to 12 minds all zooming in to each shop and going through, okay, here's 10 different ideas. Oh, cool. You're selling something that's in the video game space. I met with the VP of marketing at Quest at Meta, and I got this crazy new insight. I don't know if it's going to work, but you should go try it this week with your client. Or, I was at a dinner last night with best practices and supplements. I heard this thing is working for this person. Let's go try it. When you have the ability to have such curious folks and you have access to that depth of kind of unwritten knowledge, and you can have the right culture that reinforces that, I think that's when you can start to see a lot of success.
I love it. And plug for the show here. We've had Ryan, we've had Sarah, we've had Grace on the pod. So I'll link their episodes as well. And like when Steve says Ryan knows a lot about the ad account, my God, his episode is
Ryan is so good.
Just great.
Yeah. Those are all the heroes that, they do all the heavy lifting and everything else.
I love it. And like the culture of experimentation and like, hey, being able this knowledge share. I think like one thing that's really interesting about this is like something that I like to say a lot is like ideas are cheap. Like it's cheap to like come up with these ideas, but like to your point, it's a product and a service. Like it's not both of these things. It's this combination of the two that allows everyone on our team to like be brainstorming these ideas, be thinking of these things and actually putting them into practice like very quickly. Like these aren't just like, I don't know. I feel like when you throw the word idea around, like you kind of get this like consulting, like, oh, the consultant comes in and gives me an idea and then says like, good luck with that. But like our team's not like that at all. Like the ideas turn into tactics, turn into implementation. And like, we're there to help you with the readout of the results as well. Like, did it work? Did it not work how we thought it was going to, but it did work in another way? Okay, let's take a piece of this and like just iterate on it for the next one.
Yeah. The reality is like, I wish I could sit here and tell you that like every test we run works and we're
it's just a home run every
amazing,
single time, right?
home run every time. And, things are just working realistically. That is never the case, as we all know. Instead, what's more important is setting up the right framework for experimentation and giving yourself the right level of timeline as well as velocity to see results, right? Like experimentation, when it comes down to it, there's a time frame that you will experiment, but there's also the number of shots on goal that you can experiment with, right? Number of shots on goal times by conversion rate into, what's a good idea equals number of successful ideas. Now, as much as I'd like to believe that we're such geniuses and can improve the conversion rate of ideas, I'd like to believe that we're much better at setting up the right experimentation framework and giving you way more shots on goal that are quality shots based off of not just one person's thinking, but an entire org's worth of thinking. And that's what we're really set up to do. And that's where that product plus service tandem really helps us outshine. The reality is, sometimes our customers will say, this page was really successful. I'm going to go recreate it myself. And we say, great, go do that. We want you to go do that. Let's go actually figure this out. Because a couple things are true. One is, while you do that, let's go try and recreate it in a different service or tool. But in doing so, you will realize that the execution actually lies in a bunch of different details. What did the banner say? What did the subtitle say under the PDP in terms of going to checkout? What was the color of the PDP cart going into the actual checkout flow? Like all of a sudden, embeddable video is taking much longer for us to figure out than everything else. It almost makes more sense to just leave this running, and then it's a debate of where you want to spend the incremental hour of time that you have. Do you want to recreate something that's working, or do you want to take more shots on goal and find more things that are working for us?
I was on a customer call earlier in the week, and they kind of had like a similar. They basically asked a question very similar to what you were saying there, where it's like, okay, so like, do I use Fermat to change my website? Like, is that the goal of using Fermat? And the answer to that was like pretty eloquent, where it's like, well, like you're never at a spot where you're done, right? Like you're always learning, you're always evolving. So like this experimentation framework doesn't go away. It helps you find winning outcomes. And if you want to apply the winning outcome to kind of the site experience, great. But like just because you found that winning outcome and you applied it today doesn't mean it's the winningest outcome that is going to exist from now till whenever. So like that playground, that experimentation framework, like it always needs to exist. Yes, adopt some of this and apply it to the site, but like you have to keep it going all the time. You need that experimentation playground or you're just going to fall behind.
Totally. And I think a good point on this is just like none of this, none of this should be like non-obvious. The reality is, once you find a really good funnel, like Fermat helps you create funnels the same way you want to create ads with that level of ease. Once you find a really good funnel that works, the reality is our businesses are ever changing and ever evolving. That funnel is going to exhaust itself at some point. It is going to exhaust itself. You are either going to run out of inventory, the creative is going to be fatigued, the shop is going to have a change in the algorithm that's now not converting. So the reality is, our job is dynamic. Our job is to understand, what do we graduate to winners, and then also how do we be proactive about getting more bets stood up, because the reality is that's probably what your business needs. Your business isn't, let's get to X milestone and call it a day and shut down shop. The reality is it's ever changing. We want to be able to adapt with that.
Yeah, imagine if you could put together a ad and put together creative that just crushes from now till the end of time. Like we would never expect that on an ad level. So like I think it is a fool's errand to think that the same thing will happen with a funnel. Like it,
Yeah.
and to your point too, like, hey, all these changes, like something I always talk about is like the intention, right? Like, hey, if I'm going to go take what I've learned and apply it to my site, hey, like the traffic that comes into the site versus the traffic that came in through a particular ad, like one of the beauties of what we can do is we can match intention. Like someone came in through this ad looking at this, being told this, understanding this, and being able to like bring that all the way through. So I think sometimes too, like you might find this winning combination for an ad and be like, I'm going to apply that to my site. But like the site and your ad creative aren't necessarily the same people, and it's not necessarily the same intention that is like entering into that.
Yeah, totally. And I think that not only is it the same audience, but I suspect most brands are trying to find um, new audiences to sell to. Alex, it's so funny. I heard this one line with a really good friend of mine. Shout out to Nick Sharma. I heard this one line. We were both in New York a couple years ago, and he said, um, when a artist gets on stage and starts to sing a song to a group of an audience, the artist has one meaning for the song that they're projecting out to the group of the audience. But when the audience hears that song, there's an infinite amount of meanings that are being translated to each and every one of them. And I think the same way about funnels. The reality is your site is that one average, good, well performing, but really good average that's projecting out to the world. But our job with Fermat is to find all the different meanings for your product and create those funnels that speak to all of these different niches that really help strengthen that nodes and hubs approach. And I think that's where we can really excel. The same product, the same supplement that might resonate with a traveling mother that's based in New York City could resonate with, someone that's going as part of a run club. That could also resonate with someone that is postpartum. That could also resonate with a elderly individual that is looking to strengthen XYZ part of their health. Our job is to find those funnels without compromising your core audience.
And that's one of the great benefits of like having a team around you is like the more brains that are thinking about that, the more likely you are to find those audiences. Like I was talking to Grace the other day and she was saying like, oh, I have this brand and they normally sell to kind of like the rural American. And I'm like, oh, you need to be like targeting like the urban users as well. Cause like, hey, here's different use cases and here's different value props that you could be speaking to that are like city specific. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Okay, let's spin up a funnel real quick and like change the descriptions, change some of these things so that we can speak to this and like actually test it and try it. And like I think like again, like I know I'm just like singing your team's praises, Steve, this whole episode, but like hey, we put that experimentation framework together at the start, but like these check-ins, they're not just mundane, like, here's how things went last time. It's like, yo, Steve, I was thinking, like, I've been thinking about this thing and I think we should implement it. Here's what I think we do. I built this like mock up, like, should we go forward with this? I think we should. Like, suggestions, ideas, results, implementation, like these are all things that we can help with so that it's not just like, yo, let me spew some numbers at you. We're killing it. I don't think anyone's ever sat in a check-in and had the team they're doing the check-in with be like, oh, things aren't going well.
Yeah. I wonder, by the way, I wonder if we can share this later, but something I was thinking about today. Um, we're sitting in on a bunch of different performance readouts. And one of the things we have the privilege of is we have the privilege of working with brands that have hit a significant scale of size, of sophistication, of traffic, where some of their core audience work has been really dialed in. And funny enough, I got back from gym today. I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw two of the products that we service right side by side beside each other. And, a famous fitness influencer had reposted it to millions of different people on their site. So immediately my thought process was, because the service part of our product is so strong and because we have such a strong relationship with these exec teams where we're invited into rooms that typically other software vendors wouldn't be into, could we facilitate a product partnership here? Could we run that traffic to Fermat and see if some of the prospecting audiences, because there's really good complementary overlap, only because there's complementary overlap, could we see if that unlocks a new audience for them? You know, both of these individuals were sharing something very similar in check-ins earlier. It just made sense that we can facilitate that being at Fermat with the access that we have. And if you look at the Slack thread, people aren't saying, no, that's not our job. We're a software provider. We don't do that. Or no, that's not the right way to think about it. But they're saying we can't do this today, but here's how we would go make it happen if any of them wanted to do. And I think that attitude around like having agency, customer obsession, and just going the mile for them is really important.
Yeah, and those internal Slack threads that end up happening, like the conversation, like yes, there's a little bit of conversation around like, no, we can't do that. How do we get there? But like the conversation is always rooted in, okay, how does that make the brand more successful? Like, do we believe that, again, coming back to the very beginning of this, can we create a better outcome for what they were trying to do? And like, it doesn't necessarily matter if our tool is that today. It's like we're searching for ways to create a better, bigger, more robust outcome on what you were chasing at the beginning. And like, we're going to try to find all the ways to make that possible through product,
Exactly.
through team, through everything.
Exactly. I think the failure state for us is not when the failure state for us is not, doing really well and driving outcomes and all that stuff. That's fine. The failure state for us is really like when our customers feel like they can't come to us and really push us. Like we want our customers to push us. We want our customers to really demand the most out of us. Like bring us your strongest growth challenges. Bring us the hardest problems that are keeping you up at night. Doesn't matter if it's a Fermat problem or not. Doesn't matter if it's a marketing problem or not. We want to be in the room with you because the reality is we want to make sure that we can help you with that, and we are likely thinking about that problem too, and we will go the extra mile to do so. The way the team is set up, the talent we're setting up, even the way our operating cadence around like how many folks work with the specific or the kinds of people that work with the specific account, it's all geared towards like we want you to push us. We want you to demand more of us every single time.
Strengthens our team, strengthens our product. Like, I mean, Forever Links, like one of our bigger launches recently, that came out of customer feedback, that came out of problems that people were trying to solve and like pushing us to solve it. So like it's every single time those get shared with us, and like again, we welcome it, makes the product stronger, makes our team stronger, makes our understanding of the market stronger, so that we can basically help on both fronts.
Yeah, love it.
All right, Steve, this has been amazing. For those that are listening, if they want to kind of like get in touch with you, Twitter, LinkedIn, where can people kind of follow your musings?
LinkedIn, Twitter, email. My ask is please get in touch with me. I love hearing from our customers. You will probably hear from me if you don't reach out. I love hearing from our customers. I love hearing from our prospective customers, and I love seeing if there's ways that we can go above and beyond and really make their experience on Fermat great. So please reach out. You can find me at steve@fermat.com, fermatcommerce.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. But if you don't hear from me, if I don't hear from you, you'll probably hear from me.
Amazing. And like I said, a bunch of the members of Steve's team have been on the podcast. So I'll link those conversations in the show notes if you guys want to listen to those as well. And once again, don't forget to like and subscribe to Fermat Fridays for all of this content. Steve, thank you so much.
Amazing, Alex. Appreciate it. Thanks.